Hello and welcome to today's episode of In the Frame. My name is Chris Kumar and I'm the Programme Coordinator for Glasgow Film Festival. I'm going to be the Master of Ceremonies, the host for today. And In the Frame is a live series that Glasgow Film Festival are running, where I welcome some very special guests into my virtual foyer to chat all things Glasgow Film Festival 2021. As I say, I'm the Programme Coordinator for Glasgow Film Festival, and I'm so happy to be able to do this sort of chat every week. This week, we're focusing on foreign cinema and foreign language titles, and we're looking at some of the titles that fall under that bracket that are part of the Glasgow Film Festival programme this year. Just to state, this is by no means an exhaustive list. There are plenty of other films that we might not touch on, but these are just some ones that stick out to us. But by all means, please explore the programme at your own leisure, and I'm sure there's plenty of things in there for you to catch your eye. So, with that being said, I'd like to open the floor up to my two wonderful guests. Thank you so much for taking the time to come along and chat. If you want to just say hello and just introduce yourselves to the Glasgow Film audience.
Lovely. I'll go first. I'll break the ice. I'm Rafa Salles Ross. I've been writing about cinema for around 8 years now. I'm Brazilian. I moved to Scotland 2.5 years ago, and the Glasgow Film Festival has been a fantastic addition to my schedule over here in Aberdeen. It's my third year attending. It's a lovely festival, and I'm so happy to be here today. I have a different kind of view on foreign cinema because, to me, not to quote Cuarón at the Oscars, but every single American classic was a foreign language film to me. They were all subtitled. They were all not relating to the country I was in and the culture I was raised in. So I was always very fascinated with just having a taste of the world through foreign cinema. And it's lovely for me to be here to discuss it. Nowadays, I just write for a series of publications. I'm a freelance writer. And whenever I have the chance, I should just jump and bite into the foreign section of every single festival. So this is me.
Amazing. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Hanna Flint. I'm a London-based film and TV critic. Freelanced for a few years. Before that, I was kind of working more in entertainment journalism, but I love film and I love writing about film and everything about it. So I feel very privileged that I get to do that as my main job. So I write for Empire, LUS, I've done stuff for The Guardian, pretty much anyone who will pay me to write about movies, which, I'm also looking for new commissions. So if you're watching, hello. I suppose I also, I'm part of London's Critics Circle. I was inducted last year, in fact, and I'm also the co-chair of Times Up UK Critics Committee. And we're kind of a working group to try and improve opportunities and experiences for women and non-binary people in film criticism in the world. On foreign film, or international films or films in a foreign language. See, I've got a privilege again because, as you were saying, like everything I hear in English, it's just, it's not foreign to me, but there's so much that I don't explore because I'm so dominated by English-speaking films. It's because I live in the Western world. But as someone who is, so I'm half Tunisian, one thing I really care about is learning more about what kind of films and stories are coming out of Middle East and North Africa. So MENA storytelling, especially for me who, I don't have much of a connection there. So it's a way of me learning a bit more about a culture that I feel that I'm a part of, but not really had the opportunity to explore or learn much about. So yes, I'm happy that I've been able to get one film at the festival that I can talk about that covers that. But there's such a wealth to pick from. And I'm so glad to be back because last year I was on a panel banging on about blockbusters. So it's nice to be able to talk about something a bit smaller this time. So yeah, thanks for having me.
No, thank you both so much for joining us and take the time out your busy pandemic lives to, come and chat. So yeah, that's amazing. I'm so glad that you've both sort of touched on your sort of origins with foreign film and foreign language film. From my point of view as well, I'm mixed race. My father's Malaysian, so I grew up. I grew up in Scotland all my life. I don't speak any other language, but I grew up on Bollywood films and Asian cinema a lot in the house. So it's never been something that's been very, like, I never had that sort of epiphany where I sat down and watched something and was like, oh my God, this is foreign cinema. I think, that just goes to show, I think, that that sort of thing can mean different things to a lot of different people. But what I will say is just one nice little thing a nice memory I always have around a foreign language film, and it ties into the GFT, is I always remember going to see The Skin I Live In, the Pedro Almodovar film at the GFT in like 2011, 2012, and just being absolutely blown away by it. And that was before I really started my career working with like the festival and things like that. And it just felt like that was a moment of, wow, this is the power of cinema and things. So yeah, that's just a nice little sort of insight into me, I guess. But like you both say, foreign film, it can mean so many different things to so many different people. But obviously for the Glasgow film audience, we are looking today predominantly at things that are in a foreign language that maybe people might not have thought to take a chance on before, and that's just the hope of the festival, is that we can bring films from around the globe to people, and this year to people in their living rooms. So we've tasked the both of you with choosing some titles from the programme that you're very excited about, that you will have seen, and we're just going to talk a little bit about them and why you are so excited about the film and why you think that the Glasgow film audience should watch it. So we're going to start with, I believe, one of your picks, Hanna, and it's actually the closing gala of the film festival this year. It's Spring Blossom, and it's a French film directed by Suzanne Linden, autobiographical, and yeah, it's a wonderful choice, I think, for a closing gala. And I'll just open the floor to you, Hanna, and please just tell us a bit about why you chose this film and what the film audience can, expect.
Yeah, I caught this one last year at TIFF, actually, and I was really quite impressed considering it was a directorial debut from Suzanne Linden. She wrote it, directed it as well. I really think it's a subject. I mean, I think French cinema has a more lax approach to kind of age inappropriate relationships. Like, it's kind of romanticized a lot more than I suppose over maybe in the UK, maybe. So it's kind of has a very romantic approach to this idea that a 16-year-old, Suzanne, she stars in it, she plays herself, she's called Suzanne. So yeah, very much. I wonder how, I think some of the bits might have been changed, like a lot of dance sequences, but it's about how she's kind of got the ennui, like with her friends. She doesn't really get on with people her own age. And then, she kind of this middle-class girl in this kind of town where she walks past this theatre, and there she spots this older guy, Rafaela, and like she suddenly becomes quite besotted by him. And then he's kind of maybe a bit bored of his life, and they kind of meet, and it's inappropriate, but then you're kind of caught up in this like romanticist of this like being young and first loves, and this is such an escape, and he's so kind of worldly, and I feel like finally excited, and my friends, my 16-year-old friends, boys my age, no thank you, I've got a curly haired actor who I want to go out on his motorbike. It's done in such a kind of it's not overwrought, it's quite easygoing, and it's very relaxed in the kind of delivery. But then there are moments of whimsy that really kind of just heighten it a bit more. Like, you really understand. There's so much. It's not explicit. Like, I don't think it's an explicit film, but it kind of says a lot about that those feelings, especially, it's a coming of age story. And yeah, I thought it was, I even though it's an awkward subject, and in the back of my head, I'm like, I feel like we shouldn't, because there's a power play going on here. But, it's her story, and, it must be true to how she felt. And, as much as we can try and put our own opinions or beliefs on a film, this is personal to her. And I think she really did her own story justice.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. And it is very much a tender teenage tale of first love. It's quite charming, and it's kind of told with a wide-eyed sort of wonder at the world. But, that's one of the things when you watch the film, you're like, okay, is this a bit dodgy waters, because it is very much a 16-year-old girl who's infatuated with this like 35-year-old man, and it's very like, come on. But as you say, it's autobiographical. It's lived experience, and I don't think it would make sense for Suzanne to have told the story in any other way. Really, I mean, I think you for someone, considering she is so young as well, she's only 20 years old, I think now. So to make a film like this is, and I'm like, just incredible to start with. I mean, when I was 20, I was still wearing Velcro shoes, I think. So, it's
in her family, doesn't her dad or something? Isn't she part of like her parents are in the film industry as well? I think.
I believe so. Yeah.
Oh, it's so yeah. I mean, look, I don't know. Maybe if maybe you would be if your dad was a film director.
Maybe.
But a coming of age tale about you putting on Velcro shoes.
Yeah, that's. I'm not sure many people would like to watch that, but it's just, it seemed like such a great choice for a closing gala. We always like to celebrate female filmmakers, and we just felt that this was something that is absolutely going to pull people in and really bring them into the story. So yeah, I mean, great pick. I mean, that being said, I think all the picks we've got are great. So going on to the next one, we've got There Is No Evil. So Rafaela, do you want to maybe talk a bit about that one and why you were so interested in this one and what you think that the Glasgow film audience can expect from it?
Yeah, so this one was on my radar for a very long time because it got a Golden Bear last year at the Berlinale, and I am such a huge fan of Mohammed Hazulov. He's such a controversial but such a passionate director, especially when he comes to the front with Iranian politics and all the dynamics that are actually going on in the country. He's been banned from filmmaking after Cannes in 2017, and he actually went to jail for a year. And he kind of went around the rules to build this new film, which is told in 4 different parts. There are 4 different stories, and they all go around the fact that in Iran today, they put military servants to actually condemn and kill people that were condemned to death. And it's such a troubled issue. And I was on a deep dive to try and understand it a bit better, but as I'm going to say time and time again, we are from such a different perspective. There's absolutely no way we can come close to understanding what's going on. But with the film, it's a really poignant kind of portrait of the situation that is going on, and these 4 different stories are told in such different ways. The first one is like this ordinary man, and there's such a big plot twist in the first one, and then you get you hooked, and then you go through romance, and you go through familial conflicts, and overall it's a film that is 2.5 hours long, but it feels very quick because you're so entranced in these single stories. And with the making of the film is interesting because not only is the narrative and this choice of having 4 stories, it not only does it work for the film, but it was also a way that the filmmaker found to be able to do this film, because it wasn't like he was making this long feature and he could kind of evade authorities. And a lot of the times when he was on the streets, he would have his AD going around and he would be back in a safe place, kind of trying to conduct this film. And it's really interesting to think that he was so involved and so passionate about this issue that he actually went to this length to kind of keep with the filmmaking. And it's truly a fantastic film. And I would say to anyone who's looking for something a bit more political and is looking to get a bit deeper into the situation nowadays, is a great pick, just a great film.
Yeah, I think you nailed everything kind of there on the head. And the thing that struck me most about watching it, I think, is it's one of those things you watch and you just feel like this is important when you're watching it, and that's the beauty of film in general and things like that. But, especially films like this, it feels like you're getting an education from it in the best sort of way. And yeah, I think as well, just as you touched on the director there and stuff as well, the filmmaker, like that is, I think his story is a testament to the power of passion for filmmaking and like really getting out there and going, well, this is important to me and this is something I need to really just showcase. And yeah, I just think it's definitely, I would agree with you. I think it's definitely a film that you have to brace yourself for it. It's quite It can be quite a tough watch, but I always say about tough watches like films like this, it's ultimately the most rewarding ones. And I just think if you're really in the mood to take a chance on something, then that's definitely a good one. So yeah, absolutely. I think There's No Evil. Great. I mean, first two picks knocked them out of the park already. I mean, it's almost as if we know what we're talking about. But so to dip into one of mine, I wanted to highlight a wonderful anthology film that's coming out of Asia, which is Mekong 2030, which comprises of 5 different stories from 5 different Asian filmmakers, and it's all revolving around their visions and their expectations of what the Mekong River, one of Asia's most vital riverways, is going to kind of be the state of it in 2030. Like I say, it's an anthology film, so each different story is helmed by a different filmmaker, and it kind of just has a mix of everything. It's got some comedy in there, it's kind of dystopian future visions in there. There's a story that looks at the importance of community. There's some experimental moving image stuff in there. Like, it gives you a really good mix of things, and just is really a great showcase, I think, for Asian filmmakers and Asian film, and the sort of up-and-coming Asian filmmakers that are coming out just now. So, yeah, I think Mekong 2030 is something that maybe would slip under people's radars, just because it's easy for that to happen with a programme like ours, which has got 60-odd films in it, and it's you can't buy a ticket for everything. But I think if you're really curious about seeing some fresh up-and-coming filmmakers coming out of Asia, then I think Mekong 2030 is a really good pick for everyone as well. So I would add that to the list. Now, just to clarify as well, I believe Mekong 2030 is screening on the 25th of February, and that's a Thursday. So, yeah, keep an eye out for that one. So, on to our next pick from Hanna, and we're looking at apples.
Apples, yeah. Yes. Yeah. I love the sensibilities of this film. I mean, the director, Chris Kumar, he was an assistant director on Dogtooth by Yorgos Lanthimos. So if you think of that, you'll kind of go into this film and understand kind of the deadpan-ishness of it, because it's so it's so kind of in a way flat, but so melancholy and full of feelings and emotion, even though there's not really much happens in it, although, because that's the whole point of this film. I should probably explain what it's about. I'm getting into my feelings about it before actually explaining it. That's why I'm better at writing reviews and saying my reviews. So it's kind of set in a world, and eerily enough, there's a pandemic where people are randomly losing their memory. There's kind of this pandemic of amnesia going around, and we follow Aris, played by Aris Servitalis, who just kind of this guy who leaves his flat, sees the neighbor's dogs, he's eating an apple, and then he gets on the bus, and then he wakes up on the bus, and suddenly he doesn't know who he is or where he is, but kind of aware that there's this thing going on thanks to, news reports, whatever. So then he goes to a hospital, and he becomes part of this like new identity program where it's how create for people who are unclaimed. A lot of people lose their memory, and it kind of talks about the loneliness and what happens when you don't have people around you, and what if you haven't got family to pick you up. And so he creates this new identity, and all the way through he's going through the motions of you've got to go to see this movie, or I want you to go to have a lap dance, or I want you to go do this, and please take a Polaroid photo. And so it's kind of him going through the motions of trying to create new memories, documenting that. But then but as you go along, you kind of question whether has he lost his memory, or is he doing so? There's a lot of kind of questioning, and also questioning what are our memories like. Are we performing our lives? Like, what is it to live? Because, the doctors have prescribed him this journey, and like, this is what you got to do, but is that living? There's a brilliant scene, where he's gone to see a movie, and then, obviously he's not the only one who's lost his memory, but there's, two other people take exactly the same photo. And I think it's like this comment about like, if you're at something, we all have this same experience, but do we actually remember what it was to experience it? Are we experiencing the moment? Are we just documenting it and not actually creating the emotions of the moment, because we're just bypassing that by saying, hey, we've got a picture? And as somebody who takes a lot of selfies and takes a lot of photos, it made me question a lot of my practice. Am I living it? And I it's quite, as I said, it's this kind of guy, Aris is so, he doesn't show much emotion. There are certain looks, there might be a watery eye or there might be a slight smile, but there's everything. Even though he doesn't show much, he feels so much. It's got this lovely tone to it and kind of the absurdity of it. It's quite, it really, lots of lovely questions without being, I suppose it's not, I wouldn't say it's as, kind of comedic in the way that Yorgos, like the lobster might be. It's not quite as obvious as that, but there's a kind of slight comedic feel, undercurrent about it, because it's somewhat ridiculous what he's expected to do. Him taking a photo with a stripper. It's kind of like, what? So it's not kind of a laugh out loud like comedic moments, but there's definitely a sense of humor to this subject, exploring kind of big ideas about how we live our lives and what we remember and our memories. So I really enjoyed the sensibility of it.
I think again, spot on, and I think it's probably an easy thing. If you look into it a little bit, you think, oh yeah, it'll just be like, that sort of lobster, dog tooth, that sort of vibe. It's very deadpan, it's kind of bleak comedy sort of thing, but it would be unfair to just lump it in that sense and not give it its own credit, because I think the film itself does its own thing. It totally stands on its own and does some different things. And I think I would advise anybody that is going to watch it and to go in and be like, there's definitely going to be that sort of Lanthimos vibe in there, but don't think that you're just getting, Sacred of a Killing Deer Part 2 or something like that. You're not getting that. Killing of a Sacred Deer, sorry, not Killing of a Sacred Deer.
I think it's easy to kind of like, because, they're Greek, it's like lumped together. But actually, when you think of like something like Napoleon Dynamite, like it kind of like has that offbeat deadpan. So the idea, it's part of a school of absurdity that kind of feeds into deadpan, but actually it's got its own identity. And like you said, it's like bleak, it's melancholy, it's like not here to easily cheer you up, or kind of it really takes the subject seriously. And I think there's a lot of like, it gives it a lot of empathy, this kind of idea. So definitely he's got his own particular kind of vision and voice.
It's very earnest, I think, at points. Like, it definitely, it's not trying to be something it's not. Apples is just, I would agree. I think it's a standout for me. Sunday, the 28th of February is when it will be going on live on a platform. So absolutely, people, what are you doing at the weekends? At this point, nothing really. So I mean, Sunday night, who doesn't like a nice apple? Let's face it. So moving on to the next film. So we're going to talk about Back to the Wharf next. So maybe if you want to just tell us a little bit about why you've chose that one and why you think the Glasgow film audience should choose it also.
Yeah, so before I go into that, I would like to say I love that you picked up Apples. It was something I watched last year at TIFF as well. And it was such a highlight for me. There's a scene in a club that is such a highlight. It was a highlight of my festival. It's a scene that is just so joyous and yet so sad at the same time. It's just this sort of display of filmmaking that I love. And it's a great catch. Back to the Wharf, for me, it was a bet. I'm very interested in seeing this newer generation of Asian filmmakers, of Chinese filmmakers. A lot of them are drinking from the fountains of South Korean filmmaking and what they do best. So Back to the Wharf has this exploration of grief, of family trauma, of generational trauma, and also this kind of plot between revenge but also redemption. And it's the story of this young kid and he's getting ready to go to university. And in China, there's these exams that you take before you go to university, and there were a lot of problems before with fraud, and it's something that the government doesn't talk about it enough and tries to cover it up. But you have this whole generation of young people who think they have a place in the university just to see months before their dream being taken away after spending years of studying very hard. And this is where we start with Back to Wharf. This young kid sees his place being taken away by the son of the mayor of the local city, and it's just this corruption, and something happens that I'm not going to give it away, and he has to move for 15 years, and he comes back to this small town after his mother passes away, and he's once again tangled in this web of corruption, and this is very sinister underworld. And it's a very interesting film. There are definitely highs and lows. You can see that this is a filmmaker that's trying to explore and find his tone. He does vary it a little bit. He goes a bit melodramatic, but then he goes back to kind of these influences from South Korean filmmaking that you can definitely see. The lead performances are fantastic. I thought it was very funny because, once again, the things that we don't notice, but the lead, Yu Zhang, he's such a heart crusher in China. So these young girls are completely enamored by him. They love him because he grows this beard that is, and I'm so sad to say that, but pathetic. It's not even a beard, but all these girls are absolutely in love with this guy, and he's such like this big sex icon for these girls. And then you get him into the situation that is just the opposite of that. He's just this very closed guy, this guy who suffered deep trauma, and he's navigating this new reality and trying to find love and trying to find his place once again. It's a very interesting film, and he uses the climate as the local climate as a way to tell the story as well. So every time there's turmoil, the climate will go around. There'll be typhoons and heavy rain, and he'll go near the seas, a coastal town, and the sea is always there to wash away his kind of sins, but they're never really fully washed away. And the way that he goes into the corruption of the local government and this whole idea with the exams is something very interesting to me as well, because there's quite a heavy board of censorship in China when it comes to film approaching these issues that are not being talked about enough. But he does it in such a subtle way into the story that allows you to understand what's going on, but at the same time is not inherently political. So it's a very interesting film. It's definitely I wanted to pick something that I had not heard about it before and give it a chance, and I'm glad I went for it. It's interesting, and it's a film that I would say, if you have a little space in your schedule, it's worth a shot to go in and see this heartthrob, this Chinese heartthrob, his little attempt of a beard. I would say just go for it.
I mean, yeah, that is absolutely what we want from Glasgow Film Festival. Is you choose something that you don't necessarily wouldn't necessarily normally go for, and in this case you got to see, you know, a guy who should be a heartthrob with a pathetic beard. There was a man with a tremendous beard. I can't ever identify with that, but I did like your choice of words, which was he's a heart crusher, which just is great. Like, he's crushing hearts, he's so sexy, he's crushing hearts, he's not breaking them, crushing them into dust. So yeah, I mean, yeah, amazing. The film, I agree with everything you said. I think it's quite deep and lush, and there's quite a busy plot, but it does clearly try and point towards a lot of sort of issues that are plaguing modern China, and I think there's a lot in there. But yeah, absolutely, I would highly recommend it for anyone if you're looking for something maybe a little out with your normal tastes. So amazing. I'm moving on a little bit to one of my next sort of choices, and I am a sucker for any sort of, you know, samurai film, anything like that. So I'm choosing The Swordsman. It's just a really good. Basically, The Swordsman is John Wick wrapped up in a Korean period sort of sword fighting drama. I've got my little John Wick here, just in honor of it. And it's just like, it's really like simple in terms of the way it sets it up. Father-daughter duo who just like a nice, simple life in the sort of woods and the forests. And the father's going slowly blind. And so the daughter's desperate to try and help him. So she makes a deal to go and live with this with royalty, Korean royalty, so that she can get help for her father. But then when she's kidnapped, he then has to don his sword one more time and go back and get it. And it's kind of like a video game where he's fighting through everyone to get to the final boss. And the final boss is Joe Taslim, who is amazing. You'll know him from The Raid. The Night Comes for Us. He is this is the first time I've seen him where he's the bad guy, and he's a very soft-spoken sort of baddie, and like, yeah, just very menacing. And the sword fights are great, and it's just one of those ones that you go, put that on with your pals and just enjoy it. Just like, you don't have to worry too much. It's just like a John Wick or any sort of revenge action sort of thing like that. It's very much just go along for the ride. So Sunday the 28th of February is when The Swordsman is on the platform. That again, I mean, get your pals round, get some cardboard tubes out, sword fight with them, pretend you'll be loving it.
So that's exactly my vibe, because I feel like the first foreign language film that I loved or kind of remember stuck out in my mind was Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and that for me was like just like blew my mind. And just I feel like that in a way, like the action genre really piqued my interest in foreign language films, because it's like, oh, look at all this fighting, cool, I have to read the words, but like also look at all this fighting, this is amazing. And like, you mentioned The Raid. Oh god, one of the most like stressful experiences in a cinema. I loved it. I think at the end I was like, Hannah, you need to breathe. It's so good.
It's incredible. I mean, full of fights, but it's very rare that they're talking during the fights, so you can just enjoy the sword fights. It's a really good, fun one. That's one of those ones I would put on the shelf as fun sword fighting movie to watch with your pals. That's the tagline. The Swordsman, people. If you need any more tagline help, just what's got two thumbs that can help you out. This guy. So moving on to the next film, and we like to throw curveballs in there sometimes. And Hannah, this is one of yours, I believe, and you didn't actually get a chance to see this yet. So
no, I did. Like just before, I managed.
Oh, you did? You managed to get it.
I managed to get it in just before.
Okay. So talking about In the Shadows.
Yeah.
You want to tell us a little bit about that one?
Yeah. So In the Shadows, I, when you guys approached me, I was like, I'll have a look. And the thing about when I was looking for the category of foreign films, like Numan Akar's face just jumped out to me. And like, he is someone I think I first saw in, was aware of from the movie In the Fade, which was a Diana Kruger. Kind of, she led it, but he was in it playing a kind of German Kurdish, her husband who's like killed by a kind of right-wing, far-right, white neo-Nazi kind of terror group. And yeah, watch that movie. It's also great, but watch it after Glasgow Film Festival for these films first. But basically, so I've been, and he kind of popped up in Aladdin, the live-action one. So yeah, and he's Turkish-born German filmmaker, actor, and so I was very interested to see what he was in. So In the Shadows is made by Erdem Tepegos, and it's kind of like this dystopian. It's so interesting because I think when you say dystopian, you imagine futuristic, right? You kind of like think of like, I mean, in this one you could say, oh, is this kind of Terry Gilliam, Brazil, kind of that sort of vibe? But actually, it's a dystopian future that actually feels far more, in a way, vintage, because it feels like wartime. It feels like I'm watching like a World War II movie, like I'm in like a ghetto, basically. That sort of kind of, that the production design of it, it's set in this kind of, it seems, I mean, I assume it was like an abandoned like mine or warehouse or something, but that's where it's set, and it's following this group of people who just exist seemingly to work at this factory doing what? We don't really know. Like, you don't really, they know they're a department. There are other departments exist. They're not aware of them. But, something happens at the beginning, a kind of an accident happens, and you realize that they're pretty disposable. One guy gets checked and he's got a sprained wrist or sprained foot, and he's out. And then Numan Akar, who plays kind of the main character in this, he starts to question it. It's the classic like workers like questioning his reality, like, hold on a second, why are we, it's man versus rage against the machine, like, but it's literally a machine. And so it kind of follows him as, you know, he starts to question who are the people watching them. It's got this kind of panoptic eye, the kind of surveillance Big Brother kind of imagery of it. And it's him, the paranoia of it, him trying to uncover what is the truth, what's going on. It's quite a slow burner. You know, it's quite cerebral and a lot of it's basically, you know, hangs off him as being a captivating person to watch, kind of breaking away from this worker bee mentality to actually say, hold on, I think there's something going wrong here and I need answers. And so then he meets, it's kind of fabulistic in a way. It's like, you know, he meets this kind of the repairman. He's talking about all about like, you're wasting my time. Time is it's kind of time is a construct. And you realize, oh God, here we go. These are the big philosophical themes that we're going to deal with. So yeah, it's quite, it's not, I wouldn't say it's, I think you have to have your wits about you to watch this film, because it is quite slow in the delivery and kind of, it doesn't give away information too freely. So it's definitely, but it's such an interesting film to look at. I find Numenico, I think he is so captivating as an actor. I think he's got such a brilliant face. And I think he does it, his kind of descent into this paranoid kind of guy, wait a sec, I'm going to rise up and hopefully fight against these things. He's a really interesting actor that I really wish I could see more of, and I'm really glad to see in this. And also just, production design wise, it looks amazing, and the cinematography looks really kind of bleak, but still has a lot of visual texture to it. I know it can be quite dark at times, but I think it is, it's just thrilling to look at in a way. But I think it was, I'm really glad I picked it. I thought it was a really interesting kind of take on a dystopian subject that didn't need to feed into this kind of futuristic sci-fi kind of tropes that we're kind of used to. It's more grounded and real, and you kind of imagine, this could maybe happen, or maybe it did happen. Who knows? But there we go. Time's a construct, as it questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe it's happening right now, some sort of alternate way. But it's what struck me about the film was, it doesn't feel as like futuristic. It definitely takes it back down to the sort of bare bones, but it's got a sort of steampunk sort of kind of vibe at points from some of the costumes and the costume design. But very much sort of that 1984 very Big Brother's watching where there's cameras and they don't know, all that sort of stuff. And like the big question of guess of the film, for the most part of the film, is why are they doing this? What?
Yeah.
Which I guess if anyone's worked in a call centre like I have, then you probably know that feeling. But like, why am I doing this again? It's that sort of way. Like, not to say that call centre work is not valuable. Anyone that's watching, if you're working call centre, I'm not saying that. I just mean like in general, that sort of idea of why am I specifically doing this work if it's not something that you're
no purpose
about,
It's like the purpose, and then that's kind of the metaphor is like, what is our purpose in life? Like, what are we doing? There's, the image of a guy literally on a hamster wheel. It's kind of like, this is very literal, like going nowhere.
very, very on the nose. So, but it's just a very, like you say, a lovely sort of, well, not lovely, but a very interesting film to look at, and the lead is so, like you say, just very like captivating to watch. You just watch some people and you just go, you were born to do that. You've got that air about you. And very, very interesting. I think it will have a lot of fans. The Terry Gilliam reference that you made, I think, is spot on as well. In the Shadows, I'm so glad you got to see it in the end. So that made for the description way better. Thursday, 25th of February, that's on the platform. So just in time for the weekend. So if you want to, switch your brain off from whatever mind-numbing task that you might be doing at the time and watch some people on screen doing some mind-numbing tasks, then In the Shadows is for you. But all joking aside, it is genuinely a very like well-made, intriguing film that I think will grab your attention from the first scene. So I've left the last pick of the films from our guests to last because it's the longest title that I'm bound to get wrong. So let me see if I get it right. It's Preparations to Be Together for an unknown period of time, which was going to be the alternate title for this episode of In the Frame, but I'll let you guys go once we're finished. Don't worry, you don't have to be with me for an unknown period of time. So yeah, Rafael, do you want to maybe talk a bit about the film and what drew you to choosing it?
Yeah, this was a film that I watched last year as well at Toronto. And it was a film that stayed with me for a while, and I was so thankful to have the opportunity to revisit it. And delighted that it is in the Glasgow Film Festival, because it is a film that it grew on me. And actually, every time you think about it, you can peel another layer. So is this year's submission from Hungary to the Oscars as International Best Feature. So I hope that this will bring some attention to the film, because it's truly fantastic in what it does. So the story is basically, you have this neuroscientist that spent 20 years in the US, and she meets this other neuroscientist who's also Hungarian in a convention, and they kind of have this connection, and this guy goes and tells her, let's meet in a month in this bridge in Budapest. We'll meet again, and then let's see what happens from there. And she's in her 40s, and she goes like, this is my chance, this is my shot, I love this guy. And she goes all the way back to Hungary. And when she gets there, she talks to him, and he doesn't remember her. He didn't meet her. She goes after him, and he goes like, I don't know who you are. So this brings her it just takes her into a downward spiral, because then we start getting allegory after allegory. Not only the fact that she's a neurosurgeon and she's starting to doubt her own brain, but also all these kind of questions that go inside her head, like with past relationships, what have I done that I am mirroring now? Am I prone to just make the same mistakes? Do I actually have a personality disorder, or is this just something that I do? And it's a film that treats issues like gaslighting and just this sort of like female disposition that once you turn a certain age, you're bound to be forever in this stuck limbo of unfulfilled love. And it does so in a very interesting way. It's very noirish. It echoes Hitchcock and Kieslowski and Truffaut, and even a little bit of Kaufman, if you think about it. And the cinematography is probably my favorite of it all. It was shot in beautiful 35mm, and it's a film that really uses this space to kind of convey what the main character is thinking. So she's always in kind of this claustrophobic ways, and there's always something in her way, be there a door, be there a staircase. She's always trying to go over something to get somewhere, and it's this sort of obstacle race. There are some beautiful scenes that actually use the space in a way that is very clever. And also you get the main actress, which is Natasha Stork, and she's fantastic. Her face is just impenetrable. She's going through this turmoil of her own, and her head's going back and forth, and she's just stuck in this situation that is just mind-numbing. If you think about it, it's just terrifying to doubt yourself to that point, but she conveys that in a way that is very chilling, but yet beautiful. Every time you look at her face, you can see there's something's going on, but at the same time, she never kind of communicates that. And it's a film that I would say overall is a very interesting study of psychological turmoil, and just it does so much in an hour and a half. I cannot believe how much you could fit in there. And I would say it's also a great way for you to just dig a bit deeper into the Glasgow Film Festival and go for something a bit darker, and just give yourself some time to think and go into this downward spiral with her.
Yeah, it's quite I found the film to be quite and I wish I would get a chance to maybe see it in the cinema as well, but it seems like quite a sensory experience. I mean, the sound design on the film is amazing, and it's quite enigmatic, and does touch on how the mind can play tricks, and like you say, it is very much like it's one of those films I would suggest if you're going to watch it, sit at home, put your phone away, which you should do for every film, but turn it off, turn the lights off, and just like really just hone in and let it engulf you. I think it's one of those films that really like will wash over you, and like it's like you say, for an hour and a half as well, you're like, you get so swept up in it when you come out at the other end, you feel like you've been gone for a week, but in a good way, you know what I mean? Like in the good way where you've just been so like swept up in the story. So yeah, absolutely.
It says a lot. It says a lot for the cinematography that it engulfs you in a way that is it's so hard for you to get out of the state of mind, and you stay with her throughout. It doesn't matter what happens, which I would say is a very hard task, especially when you're watching something when you don't have the comfort of the cinema, you don't have that isolation. For you to just stay so engulfed in this story it truly is a feat.
Absolutely, and I think that's the perfect way to sum it up. You don't need to see, like, obviously we all want to be in the cinema, but the joy of Glasgow Film Festival at home is we're bringing it to you, and there's these amazing films that are going to make you forget that you're sitting in your living room, which is, I mean, that's just the beauty of film, isn't it? So, amazing picks from the two of you. I could have listened to you talk about them for a long time, for as long as it takes for me to say the title of that film. Preparations. Really, really good. Just to round it off for me, to give you my last sort of pick, I had a few, and I might put in a wee honourable mention, but the sort of other one that I wanted to highlight was The Last Ones, which is an Estonian film, and it's actually their official Oscar, one they put forward for the Oscars, and it's really, really like amazing. It looks great. I mean, it's got these vast, stark sort of, European countryside landscapes. The cold, it looks cold, and it's about all these workers who work, miners, and all the sort of people that work with them. It's got some really dark humour and stuff in there, and it's really just captures the vibe of working for the weekend. These people go to their jobs, and then there's all these lovely, amazing shots of them like getting steaming drunk in the pub and dancing, pretty much specifically to Roxette. Like, that's all the songs that they play. It's all Roxette, which, as someone who loves Roxette, I'm like, amazing. As soon as they started playing in the film, I was like, yes, I'm in for this. What I could dive into my brain and went, what would Chris like tonight? Oh, we'll put some Roxette on the set for him. So yeah, amazing. And it's just like, just sort of really sort of weird, and captures that vibe of like working for the weekend so wonderfully well. And yeah, I really think that's one for people to look out for. But just to give a little honourable mention as well to another one that I do think people should check out, and that's Dreams on Fire, which is a Japanese film. And it stars Bambi Naka, who's like one of the biggest like dancers in Japan now. And it's kind of like a Japanese urban dance film. It's like Step Up, Coyote Ugly sort of mix in there.
Oh my God, I'm sorry, but that is exactly my jam.
There you go. I mean, yeah, and you wouldn't think it would necessarily be my jam either, but I was just like, this is great. This is exactly what this film is like. And the good thing about it is that it doesn't bog down the story, because it's all about Bambi's character. Her family are like, you'll never make it as a dancer. And she's like, well, I'll show you. And she runs off to Tokyo to study dance. And, the whole point of the story is it's all about her journey. And at no point do they try and shoehorn in a romantic storyline with like a male dancer or anything like that. It's all about her just making herself as good as she can be at dance to make it in this sort of world. And it's got amazing dance sequences, and it's a really good look at Japan's sort of underground dance and subculture communities. And just a film that took me by surprise, because when I read about it, I went, this looks good, but maybe it's just not specifically for me. But, again, the joy of films is being surprised by things. So if you want something that is like Step Up, Coyote Ugly, that sort of vibe, really nice, like amazing dance sequences, then yeah, I mean, that's one of those ones. That's screening on Saturday, the 6th of March. So, I mean, I don't assume we'll be allowed to have anyone round to our flats on the 6th of March, but maybe set up a separate Zoom with all your friends and have like a total dance party. Like, that's just the way to do it. Like, just like absolutely let loose, because it's just one of those films that you just enjoy for the pure joy of seeing people in their element dancing. And so actually my last two picks basically were about people dancing to a bunch
like
of
nightclub.
There's a nightclub sorted, at home nightclub. So we're coming to the end now, guys. I mean, thank you so much for taking the time to come along and chat. Like I say, I would happily chat to you for ages. Hopefully we'll get to do it in person at some point. But you know, like, I just want you all, everyone to stay safe and stuff. So that's what we have to do just now. I just want to say thank you again, like I say, for coming along. Just before we wrap up, is there anything you'd like to sort of sign off on? Anything you'd just like to say about Glasgow Film Festival, or anything that you guys have got going on in your lives just now?
Well, I was going to just say, like, I feel, you know, like you pointed out, we can't leave the house. And I feel like this category of what we've been talking about today is the way you can live like vicariously through other cultures and understanding and go visit these places. Like, this is the perfect time for you to, you know, you might not have been able to go on holiday this year, but you can go to a Tokyo nightclub. Do you know what I mean? You can, there's so many ways that you can go to like a Parisian kind of street. You know, there's so many ways that you can explore other places. And I think, you know, why don't give some of these foreign films a chance just so that you can get that kind of fix. That's what I've kind of enjoyed. So so that's my kind of little rainbows and clouds of this category. Yay.
I would say that with my films, they are almost all places I would not like to be in, but the sentiment is still over there. I've been reflecting a lot on the fact that Glasgow Film Festival last year was the last taste of normality I've had. Being in Glasgow and seeing people was the first time I kind of understood the severity of it all, and probably the last time I tasted full on festival joy. But I'm so happy that the festival is delivering such an incredible program online. The platform looks amazing, and I am more than delighted to just dig in and just listen to a lot of Roxette, I suppose. Do a little bit of dancing. Sounds amazing, and I'm so happy to be here again and to have been invited. Thank you so much. It was a delight.
Thank you so much for this, Chris.
Absolutely, and I can't say any more to sum it up better than what you guys just said there. So again, I'll leave it at that. Just to let everyone know, next episode of In the Frame will return a week today at the same time, and we'll be focusing on British film and what we're looking most forward to a little closer to home. So the best of British sort of filmmakers and what we've got. So yeah.
Let me just interrupt you there. Shout out to Ben Sharrock and Limbo. Obsessed. It's so good.
Obsessed. So, it's the best. It's the best thing I've seen last year. If you guys don't talk about Limbo, I'm not sure what's happening here.
You know what? People might just have to tune in next week and find out. Will we talk about Limbo? We won't talk about it. So that is for everyone to find out and for me to know. That being said, again, thank you so much, guys, for joining us. Thank you, anyone that was watching, didn't watch. Last week's episode of In the Frame is still available to watch. We'll be covered underrepresented filmmakers in the programme. So thank you so much for joining us, and I will speak to you all next week. Bye, guys.
Bye, thank you.